Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Wind, and welcome to class. Today, we're going to talk about this artist here. His name is Juan Miro. It is spelled Joan, but it is pronounced Juan. He is a Spanish artist out of the Surrealist movement. Surrealism was an art movement from like 1920 till around the 1950s. And then it kind of had a resurgence again in the 1980s and 90s. Artists have been kind of tapping into it for the last 100 years. It was an art movement that was kind of abstract, but it wasn't abstract in the way that the art didn't look like anything. It was abstract in the way that they weren't trying to make art that looked like reality. Instead, they really believed that there was a reality underneath our reality called the subconscious, and that's the art that they were trying to make, was the art that showed that reality underneath our reality. So Juan Miro, Salvador Dali, they all kind of were part of this movement called Surrealism. So when we talk about Juan Miro, we can talk about his artwork in a lot of different periods. His early work here called The Farm, it looks quite real. Like we have a lot of things that we can see. We can see a tree, we can see some bushes, we can see the back of a horse, we can see a horse back here, we can see a lady, we can see a dog barking, we can see a goat. These are all things that we can point at and say, like, that's what that is. Here's a snail. But it still is something that he dreamed and then would wake up from that dream and start doing sketches from that dream of things that he remembered from the dream and would make a full painting based on the dream that he had. So he never really kind of let us know what that dream was. He would just make art that was based on that dream. So this must have been a dream about a farm, and there's a lot of stuff happening on this farm. Later on in his art, he kind of let go of reality altogether and started making work that looks like this. And again, these are works that are supposed to be coming from his dreams or things that he's thinking when he lets himself just think freely. And in this, you can barely make out anything. Like maybe here's a face because here's an eye and a mouth. This seems to maybe be a bird because here's a beak and there's the wings of the bird. We see another eye right here. This is maybe a moon and some stars. And we know that it's a bird because it's called the Nightingale Song. So we know that there's birds involved in this because the nightingale is a bird. And it's called Nightingale Song at Midnight. So we know that these are supposed to be stars and moons because it's supposed to be like a night sky. But other than that, we really don't know what the reference is. But if you notice in Juan Miro's work, there's still a lot of similarities here. Notice the kind of like going from like dark to light, the kind of blending or shading that's happening in the background. You'll see that in the farm too, like all over the place. There's these like these areas that go from dark to light, this kind of blending thing to kind of give it this really hyper real feeling, while at the same time, the shadows are all coming from different places. So like that doesn't seem like the light is really coming from anywhere. So there's still this kind of dreamlike quality because like there seems to be light here, but then the light's here and here. It doesn't make complete sense. Um, so when we look at his work, there's still this kind of like sense of reality in the way that he uses his blending, but as he moves on, it gets even farther from realism. In our project today, you guys are going to be looking at this painting. In Spanish, it's Carnaval de Harlequin, or in English, it's the Harlequin's Carnival. Harlequin was kind of like a jester, was somebody who would be in a court, like a king's court, and would be the person who like plays instruments and makes jokes for the king. He was kind of like the entertainer. And the Harlequin, for whatever reason, was something that Miro was interested in throughout his career. So he often had a Harlequin hidden somewhere in a lot of his paintings. So for some reason, he really associated with the Harlequin, had something to do with his subconscious, the reality underneath his reality, his dreams. The Harlequin was somewhere there. So for your drawing prompt this week, you're going to do something similar. You're going to wake up from your dreams. You're going to start drawing based on what your dreams are, and you're going to make a drawing based on the dreams. In my drawing, you're going to see that I did a lot of the same kind of blending technique that he did here and here. So you're going to be able to kind of do that same thing. Try to create some reality in the way that you use the shading or blending techniques that he has here, while also kind of accessing your dreams. In today's analysis, I really want you to kind of like, this one has a lot of stuff happening, so you should be able to write more than 2 sentences of what you see happening in here. Think about all the stuff that you're seeing in here. Do you see a parrot? Do you see a dice? Do you see a fly? Do you see an ear? Do you see guitars? Do you see a fish or 2 cats? What are all the different things that you see in this image? Make a list of everything you see in the analysis this week. I'm not telling you where I see these things or what these things are, because I want you in this week's analysis to really just kind of access everything you can see in this. From here on out, we're going to be spending time looking at the surrealists, because hopefully when we get back to school, you'll be making an artwork that is based on surrealism. So I want you to access all the weird stuff that's happening in here so that you can explain to me what you see, and all you're doing is describing. You're not telling me if it's good or bad. You're not telling me what you think it means. You're just describing, listing everything you see. Because in the end, once you list all that kind of stuff, it's all of the evidence that you have from this image. So when then you try to create meaning from this image and try to say what you think this image means, you have a ton of evidence to base your the C and CER, your claim on. So you have all this evidence to say, okay, my claim is that this painting is about blank, and here's all the evidence I pulled, and the reason this is good evidence is because. So you'll have plenty of evidence. So when you're describing, just literally list every single thing that you see so that you have a ton of evidence. So in this week's analysis, I'm really looking for you guys to list everything you see in this really, really weird painting. I hope you guys have a good spring break, and I'll talk to you next week.